Hey there, and welcome to today's presentation. My name is Chris Farr. I'm a life group shepherd and worship team leader with Urbana Grace Church in Urbana, Ohio. And I'm taking a master's class through Grace College and Seminary right now, talking about creative communication. So that's what we're going to do. Today, we're going to talk about 10 steps, or 10 challenges, that your church probably is going to face here in this new landscape that we have. So, a little bit of an overview. Today, like no other point in history, has the gospel had the opportunity and the availability to go out to people in such a fast, accurate, and quickly dispersible way. But there's a problem. There has been, I believe, a huge departure from biblical teaching, even among today's evangelical churches. The presentation that we're going to have today is going to talk about 10 challenges that are facing the modern church in this new landscape that has kind of emerged post-COVID lockdown. The cultural shifts that have been, taking into account these cultural shifts that have been affecting us here over the past several decades. And we're going to attempt to see a way forward into a generation that needs this message, and getting back as a church, as a big C church, to a gospel-centric message. So that's where we're heading here today. But first, I wanted to outline just a little bit of context, okay? All of this information is online. Ligonier Ministries, from their 2022 State of Theology survey. This one kind of shocked me a little bit. All right, so the church body, 36% of all U.S. adults, so that's everybody that's surveyed, 36% of all adults surveyed agree that Christians have some sort of obligation to be part of a local church body. Okay, so that's churched and unchurched. But here's the thing. Only 62% of surveyed Christians agreed that the Christian has the obligation to actually go to church and be part of the body. Just over half. All right. The church and universalism. This one kind of shocked me a little bit as well. Of the U.S. evangelicals that were surveyed, all right, 56% agreed that God is accepting of all world religions, all worship from different world religions. Now, this is clearly, that's not biblical. Okay. Next up, the divinity of Christ. All right, professing evangelical Christians, 43% say that Jesus was a good moral teacher. He's a great guy. He wasn't God. 43%. Okay, and then lastly, addressing the unchanging nature of God, that of the U.S. adults surveyed, so this is everybody that was surveyed, Christians and non-Christians alike, 51% say that God actually learns and adapts to changing circumstances. Now, this view is shared almost identically with evangelical Christians, 48% agreeing that God learns, changes, and adapts. So those are, to me, some scary numbers. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit more. When we're talking about sending the message, spreading the message of the gospel, it doesn't do us a bit of good if we're sending the wrong message. All right, the Christian must clearly understand what the gospel actually says, what Scripture actually says. Gospel clarity is what is needed in order to change this world for the cause of Christ. All right, moving on. We're going to get into challenge number 1. All right, hybrid services. Now, approximately 73% of churches are hybrid. Okay, that means that there is some sort of physical and some sort of digital aspect to their church services. It's pretty commonplace anymore. In 2019, only 20% of services had any sort of live stream option, anything along those lines. Now, here's where the statistics kind of come into play. So of those churches that are focusing primarily on the in-person aspect, those churches tend to see a higher investment from their congregations. All right, regular attendance, participation, giving, everything like that is usually elevated. However, the digital churches are seeing the biggest growth. So here is the question: how can we create a hybrid of the two? We get the best of both worlds. Can the church have its cake and eat it too? Okay. Can the church emphasize both of the vitality of meeting in person, of that person-to-person communication and interaction in all of the biblical sense, without neglecting those folks that are, for one reason or another, not able to make it to a physical church service? Urbana Grace has a live stream service. I'm super thankful for that, because there have been instances where I have been sick, or a family member has been sick, or my wife and I, last fall we took a trip out west as a belated anniversary getaway. And Sunday morning, what did we do? We turned on the computer and we watched our home church service from the other side of the country. So these are things that that are very, very useful. It's, can we create space for both of them? So that's one of the challenges that we're seeing in the current culture. How can we create a quality hybrid service? Next up, we've known this one for ages, and unfortunately it's still an issue: clergy burnout. All right, your pastor's tired. All right, I'm going to read for you here a little quick something. All right, this is out of 1 Timothy chapter 3. So this is the qualifications for your pastor. All right, this saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, he desires a noble task. Therefore, an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own household well, with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. If someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for the church of God? He must not be a recent convert, or he may become puffed up with conceit and fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must be well thought of by outsiders, so that he may not fall into disgrace, into a snare of the devil. And we're not going to limit it just to pastors. We're going to call it about deacons as well, other leaders within the church. Deacons likewise must be dignified, not double-tongued, not addicted to much wine, not greedy or dishonest for dishonest gain. They must hold the mystery of faith with a clear conscience, and let them also be tested first. Then let them serve as deacons if they prove themselves blameless. Whoa. That is a tall order. Okay, and not only is your pastor trying to manage all of these things, he's also trying to take care of you and everybody else in your congregation. All right, and what that is leading to, because pastors are also getting older. They've been at it for a long time. There is a shortage of up and coming pastors here in the United States. And right now, the number of pastors who are giving some sort of thought about exiting the ministry has increased to almost a third. That they're talking about hanging it up, man. It's a lot. So what's the way forward here then for you and for me? How do we do this? Well, we need to take care of our pastors. We need to communicate with them, checking in on them. Hey, how are you doing? How can we pray for you? How can we, as a church congregation, serve you so that you can continue serving the church? So pastors do need care as well. Moving on here, challenge number 3. We alluded to it just a little bit already about the age. Okay, pastors are getting older, church congregations are getting older. All right, and as church congregations get older, that older age group is starting to become less engaged with what's going on in the daily church life. Okay, that 60 to 70-year-old crowd that has traditionally been kind of the pillar of wisdom, They've got a little bit more free time. They've got additional resources that the younger crowds may not have for the folks that are raising families and whatnot. They maybe have a little bit more disposable income, disposable time. Who knows? There are multiple factors into this. But those folks are disengaging a little bit because of illness, because of age, because of just the ability to get out and move around. Okay, so what that leaves is a gap. Now, guys my age that are in their 30s, and I'm not in my 40s yet, I'm getting there, that we're stepping into those places, but we don't necessarily have the wisdom that comes with age that these folks that we're trying to replace have acquired. So we need to do two things here. We need to really engage, one, with our millennials and our Gen Z leaders who are stepping into these places and providing them with training and resources, like how to lead in these spaces. And then also for our older, aging boomer generation, that we're taking care of them. Just because that they may be disengaging a little bit from leadership within the church does not mean that they are any less part of the community of the church, of the congregation, which is also kind of ties in with our live streaming, our hybrid service topic, that we need to make sure that we've got something substantive for them to be able to engage with if they are stuck at home. So that's point number 3. Point number 4, church and social media. Social media, folks, is not going anywhere. Let's take a quick look at this video and see what they've got to say. This is Jonathan Morrow.
How should Christians engage with social media? Social media is an amazing tool. It can be used for good, and it can be used for evil. We see examples every day. One of the things we also see is that social media normalizes certain things. It literally scripts reality and frames how we ought to do certain things, how we ought not to do other things. So one of the things Christians need to be mindful of is recognize that social media is always shaping you, it's always distracting you, and it's not neutral. It's always doing those things. And embedded in those things are ideas, attitudes, habits, emotions, and contexts that then help us view the world. And we're either going to do that well and more biblically, or poorly in a way that doesn't honor Christ and doesn't honor image bearers around us. So a couple of thoughts. One, if you wouldn't say it to someone directly, face to face, maybe don't share it online. Second, the world is far more complex than Twitter would have you believe. So don't think that 140 characters sums up everything that needs to be said there. Have grace, have charity, but also recognize that certain tools aren't designed well for certain conversations. And lastly, find ways to use our influence on social media for good. Everyone is attracted to the negative in our culture. It sells, it's clickbait, all those things. What we need to do is find ways to give people hope and find ways to influence others for Christ using social media. So there's ways that we can redeem it and use it, but don't be so naive as to think that you're not affected.
All right, so Jonathan said it really well there, that social media affects everyone in, regardless of whether you're churched, unchurched. Okay, what we need to do as a church, again, big C church here, it's a tool. Social media is a tool. It's not going anywhere. In 15 years, Facebook probably isn't going to be a thing, or it will have morphed into something different. The tools are going to change, but the concept of digital communication and digital community are not going anywhere anytime soon. So we need to be taking some active steps for Christ-driven stewardship of our social media. And I believe that applies to both us as a church and as individuals, as representatives of both Christ and our church bodies. Moving along here to challenge number 5, walking the walk. All right, so this one has been an issue for Christians, I think, probably since day one. Okay, We say one thing, we do another. So I am going to read to you some scripture again here. So this one you're going to find 1 John chapter 3, verse 18. Okay, it says, "Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth." Okay, so claiming to love one another, that's not good enough. Love is not just a sentiment. Okay, love is action. All right, so what does that mean? That means Christians, if we're going to make any sort of change in the world, we need to show our neighbors, show our community, show our churches that it's more than just lip service. That the outward, what you see, what you experience from me to you, is the outward expression of an inward truth, that Christ has created something brand new. We need to make sure that we're walking out what we say we believe. Next up, challenge number 6, Gen Z is curious about Christ. I was actually really encouraged by this Barna study that I read, that U.S. teens, both churched and unchurched here, that they're curious. Okay, over half of teens have at least some sort of inclination to understanding who Jesus is. So Gen Z has been often referred to as this like open generation. They're interested, they're curious, they're hungry to trust in something though. You know, so churches need to be investing their time and their resources into today's young people. The days of saying, all right, you teens and preteens, you all go downstairs and watch VeggieTales or hear about Noah's Ark for the umpteenth time. Those days are gone. They need to be gone. What we need right now is purposeful investment in our kids, in these young people who are going to be the future leaders of the church and carry the message of the gospel into future generations. We need to invest in them and invest in them well. All right, challenge number 7. Helping people answer the call. This one kind of blew me away. All right, 56% of Christians believe that discovering their calling is something that they have to do alone. That one kind of rocked me a little bit. Like we preach community and we preach, fellowship and all these things. Why on earth would we say that, hey, when it's time for you to answer the call that Christ has on your life, you got to do this one on your own? It's just this kind of weird, and maybe it's an American thing. We've got this whole cowboy kind of persona about ourselves. You pull yourself up by the bootstraps sort of deal. I don't believe that's the way that things were intended when we're talking about answering the calling that Christ has placed on each of our lives. So churches need to be creating an established pathway for future leaders along their journey, whether that is in the marketplace as tech support, business professional, parent, pastor, daycare provider, whatever the case might be. Churches and church leaders need to be equipping their congregations for the life that Christ has called them to lead. All right, next one, challenge number 8. This is a big one for the worship studies, the ministry studies, the tech guys, that going beyond Sunday. So here's the deal. As a church pastor, as a church minister, as a leader, you get your congregation for a couple hours on Sunday morning. Who else gets them the rest of the week? Right? That's the world. What kind of influence are they having? So we need, as ministries, to be able to get to the place that we are investing in our congregations outside of those couple hours on Sunday morning. Churches can meet this challenge by creating and curating content for the purpose of meeting their congregations outside of Sunday morning. So this can be YouTube videos. This can be Facebook Shorts. This could be podcasts. This could be any number of different ways to really engage with your congregation, get them thinking, get them, digging deeper into these things throughout the week. All right, challenge number 9, engaging the local community. As a local church body, this is where the rubber meets the road for you guys, okay? Churches are perceived by the vast majority of the communities that they are in as positive to the lives of those communities. There are very few exceptions to that, and usually those are folks that have an axe to grind about the church. They've been harmed by the church in some unfortunate manner. But here's the thing. By and large, churches, when we're talking about the health and growth of a community, are seen as good things. So we need to leverage that, okay, by focusing time and talent on your local church community. By focusing your resources, you can help to engage with your own flesh and blood neighbors, okay, in gospel-driven acts of service and compassion in your own community. You want a way to impact your own little corner of the world? This is a way to do it. And finally, last challenge, okay, meaningful discipleship. You have no idea how frustrating it is to talk to people and say, I have never experienced any sort of personal, meaningful investment, discipleship investment from any church that I've ever been a part of. And that's unfortunate. That's sad is what that is. Many churches lack discipleship training in any sort of formal sense, and that is, I think, stunting the spiritual maturity of their congregations. By being intentional with their discipleship and training, equipping people for kingdom service, whether that's on a mission field somewhere on the other side of the world or right around the corner, okay, we can further affect the cause of the gospel and enable people to draw closer to Christ. All right. So how can you help as an individual? First off, go to God in prayer. All right. Every Christian is a member of the body of Christ, and we all have something that is very, very unique, something that was assigned to you by the creator of the universe. He picked it out for you to use for kingdom purposes. So I think that we need to pray, and pray hard, for opportunities to utilize those giftings that we have been given for God's glory. Next up, we're going to give. All right. I know it might be something that we don't like talking about, but you know what? Churches do need financial help. Churches need financial support to be able to invest in ministries, to be able to support their current leaders, and to help to build up future leaders to engage in community service that we just talked about, to be able to support missionaries, to be able to support food pantries and cleanups and that sort of thing. I do want to show you one quick little thing on this topic. Why on earth do churches need why do they need funding? Take a look at this. Okay. So here in Ohio, we had some tornadoes that went through and just completely decimated the Indian Lake community. This is a high school gymnasium jam-packed full of donations, a large part of those coming from folks within church communities. So they need funding, they need material support. Give your time, give your energy, give your resources for the purpose of the gospel. All right, next is to serve. Look for ways to serve even in unofficial capacities. All right, you can serve without being part of a service team. You can serve without even being part of a paid ministerial staff. All right, helping out neighbors. If you're, the elderly neighbor just got home from the hospital and they need a hand getting groceries in or taking care of their lawn, or whatever the case might be, you have the opportunity to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Don't be afraid to serve. And lastly, we need to be on mission. It all starts with knowing the gospel and then answering that call. There is never a moment when you and I are not on mission. We don't, as Christians, have an off switch, or at least we shouldn't. All right, so wherever you are, whatever it is that you are doing, that is the mission field where God has placed you. So how can you help? Be on mission. Have that switch turned on. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Again, my name is Chris Farr. It's been great to have you here, and I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that this has been inspiring. I hope that this has addressed a few issues that your church might be having, and in some way provoked some thought on how can we meet these challenges. If you'd like to dialogue any further on this, if you have thoughts, feel free to reach out to me. You can leave a comment in the comments section below here on YouTube. You can reach me on Facebook, or you can also reach me directly through email. It's pfarrc@grace.edu. All right, and I'll have links to the Facebook and everything down in the section below. Until next time, thanks so much.